I recently raced my first ever Harescramble, and the biggest thing I was worried about was the logistics of it all. How does it work? What if I do the wrong thing? What if I'm unprepared? Today, I'm going to help you out and answer all those questions. And I'll also share some of the key things I learned at my first Harescramble so that you can be ready for yours. Stay tuned till the end because I'm going to give you my philosophy on pacing the Harescramble out so that you can be sure you actually finish your first race as well. But before we get into all that, I'm trying to reach 5,000 subs. It's free and it really helps me out. So hit that button below and join the SoupMoto crew today. I just want to give a little plug before we get into things and say that my first Harescramble race is actually on my channel. It's uncut. I filmed as much as I could until my GoPro battery died. So I'm going to link that video up in the top right corner of this video and in the description below. And you can go check that out if you're interested to see the actual GoPro footage. I ended up finishing 6th out of 45 riders in open C class, and I finished 59th overall. And I don't remember the total number of riders at the event, but I ended up finishing 59th overall out of everybody. Before we also hop in, I'm gonna give my background briefly just so you guys kind of understand where I was coming from before my first race. I've been riding for over 20 years, almost my entire life, and I primarily grew up riding motocross on motocross tracks a lot, but I also rode in the woods a lot too. Just because of availability and the land that I had around me, I rode in the woods a ton. But I didn't ride a ton of long trails or a bunch of single track or anything like that. It was more this past year that I started riding single track almost exclusively a lot, basically this whole last season of riding. So that's a bit of a background on me. I've never done a Harescramble race before this one that I recently did, but I did race a couple motocross races in the past when I was younger. So hopping right into it, some things you're going to need to know about Harescramble racing in general to be prepared for your first race is just the general format of it and how they score the event. And from my understanding, this is pretty standard across all Harescrambles. It might vary depending on the race you're at. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, because like I said, this is the first one that I've done, so I don't have a huge sample size of events to talk about, the intricate differences and that sort of thing. So if you know stuff that I am leaving out of these videos, please chime in the comments below, because like I said, I don't have 100% experience in this type of racing, but I just want to kind of give you, based on my first race, what a beginner should know going into it. So as far as the format goes, it's a 2-hour long race and they score it based on the number of laps you complete. Everyone races all at the same time on the track. So for example, A class, like the expert level racers, and like C class, the beginner racers, they are all racing on the same course at the same time, but they start them in different positions. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit here. So it's a dead engine start, which basically means you have your engine completely shut off before they either wave the start flag or whatever they do to indicate that it's time to start the race. And once they wave that start flag, they say go. You start your bike from a dead engine and you go. And as I mentioned before, you start in a line or a row with your class. So I was racing open C class. We were the whole way back in like the 7th row. The pros start in like the 1st row, then it goes like A class, B class. And there was some senior classes and that sort of thing in between B class and C class, at least in the race that I did. And so those people will all start in front of you. And they were starting each row at my race about 30 seconds apart. So they would let one row go, and then the row behind them would like warm up their bikes, and then they would tell everyone to cut their engine, and then they would, let that row go, and then, so on and so forth. It would go back throughout the lineup. So because everyone is on the same course throughout the whole 2-hour event, that means that people from further back, like for example, in my row, C class row, could potentially pass up through the classes ahead of them or the rows ahead of them. So you might pass up ahead to the point where you're riding with a bunch of people in B class. That's something that could definitely happen. Additionally, if you're in a class where you have a bunch of people behind you in different rows, those people coming up through may reach your class as well. So you might be getting passed by people in classes behind you. Not only that, but to mention as well, you will be getting lapped by the leaders probably also throughout the race, depending on the length of the course and that sort of thing. So, the guys that are just hauling through this course are going to come around and you'll hear them behind you throughout the race. And I'm going to explain a little bit about what to do when that happens throughout the race later in this video. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the checkpoint. So like I said, this may be different for each Harescramble race and whatnot, but at least at the one that I was at, what they did was they gave us a sticker that we put on the side of our helmets, and that gave them our rider number, and that's unique to each rider. And then we also stuck a sticker that had some like electronics or something in it. We stuck that on the visor of our helmet, and that acted as a transponder. So when we went through, they would like scan that device and it would give a little beep, and then they would electronically know where we were in the lineup, like as far as scoring goes at the checkpoint, and they would also be able to read our number off and write it down by hand. So when you go through the checkpoint, which is usually somewhere near the start, you basically have to, there's a section where like you can't pass anybody. So you don't want to come like flying in through and pass people in this slow area. And then once you get to the little tent where they have the checkpoint, you'll want to come to a complete stop for a second, let them scan their number or your number or whatever they have to do, and then they'll usually tell you to go. It's very short. They don't have you there for a long time, but you want to come to a complete stop just so you can be sure that they score you, and then you head on your way. Now, like I mentioned before, letting faster riders past you is something you're probably going to have to do when you're doing your first race. And a lot of times you'll hear them coming a ways behind you, because they're going to be racing really fast, and you'll hear their exhaust. And when they get close to you and they want to go past, if you don't hear them behind you or you're kind of in their way, they'll probably rev the bike. And so if you hear someone like revving behind you, like hitting the rev limiter, you're going to want to get out of their way, move over somewhere safe. And especially when you hear faster riders coming up behind you, try your best not to cross over the sides of the course. You don't want to be zigzagging all the way across, because it's going to be dangerous when they try to pass you. And if someone is faster than you, especially in your first race, just pull over, let them by. There's no sense in trying to battle them or slow them down, especially if they're coming through and they're, in first place or in like A class lapping you. You don't want to hold them up. Like, there's no point in doing that. So just let them pass in a safe way and keep on going at your own pace, because honestly, that's kind of the whole point of this race anyway. It's an endurance race. You are racing against other racers, but it's not like a head-to-head battle kind of the way it is in motocross racing. So there's no reason to like get chippy with anybody or try to hold them up or whatever. There's no point in that. So just let the faster riders pass in a safe way. If you hear them rev bombing behind you, just let them go. And if you're coming up on someone that's going way slower than you and you want to get past them, you can definitely do that as well. Make your presence known for sure, so they understand that you're behind them. They might try not to let you pass. If they don't, or if you do just want to try to pass somebody, make sure you don't take the same line as them. If you're following right behind someone, you're never going to be able to get around them. So make sure you're taking alternate lines from the people in front of you, because if you don't do that, you're literally never going to get around them. Additionally, something to note is when to pit and what to do. Now, I don't have a lot of experience in planning this, and also it's going to vary from bike to bike. It turns out the bike that I rode was very fuel efficient, and whenever I pitted, I didn't even really technically need to fuel up. But it's going to vary depending on the track, how hard you're, revving it the whole way through the race and that sort of thing. I decided to pit at the 1 hour mark halfway through the race. And I did wear a Apple Watch whenever I was doing it, and I had Strava on there just going so I could know how much time I had, and it was also tracking the distance that I was racing and that sort of thing. So I was checking that every once in a while, just kind of seeing how far I was through the race. And then I had some people helping me out, and they had, a gas can and a pair of goggles for me ready to go. Now, as far as what you do at the pit stop, it's totally up to you. Definitely probably want to top off your gas If you want to have a separate set of goggles and gloves there, it's a good idea as well. You know, if you want to have some food, maybe some of those, like, you know, I don't even know what they're called, but like the pouches of like goo that you can eat that give you like calories, you could have some of those maybe. Really, it's all up to you depending on what you're gonna do. But I will say a little note about goggles and tear-offs. Make sure you prep this before. If you've never used tear-offs before, or you never used roll-offs before, and this goes for any gear that you have that you're getting right before you race, make sure that you test it out beforehand and make sure that you know how it works, especially tear-offs too. I actually ended up folding my tear-offs the incorrect way right before the race started, and then I noticed the mistake and I fixed it, but it was just in the nick of time. And if I didn't do that, all of my tear-offs would not have been able to, I wouldn't have been able to pull them all off. So just make sure you're not just testing out new gear at the race. Make sure you prep this before and you try the stuff out before as well. That includes like camelbacks and hydration packs, that sort of thing. Like, try it all out beforehand. It's not a good idea to just show up for the race and like try something out for the first time. Now, as promised, I'm going to talk about my strategy for pacing in this race. And it was kind of interesting. I learned a lot of stuff just by doing it and going through it. And I think there's 3 phases for pacing, or maybe 4. And I'm going to talk about all of them and kind of how you want to strategize based on going through the race. Now, here are the 4, I guess, in my mind, phases of pacing. You have the faster rider pull, you have like the slower rider rest, you have your own speed, and then you have your sprint speed. Okay, so I'll give an example based on the race that I did. In the start, I got a pretty good position at the beginning, and I locked on to the one rider in front of me. I remember he was wearing orange gear, he was on a KTM, and he was going at a speed that I thought I could match. So what I did was I latched onto him, and I kind of had him like pulling me through the pack. He was making passes around people that were slower, and because of that, if I stayed close enough to him, when those people let him by or he found a gap, usually they would also leave me by. So I kind of latched onto him and he pulled me up through the pack. Now, at that point, if it is a faster rider, you're going to end up getting tired because they're going to be pulling you at a speed that is not your own kind of natural resting pace. So there might be a point in the race where you're going to want to get behind a slower rider, a rider that's actually slower than your pace, and you can latch on to them and follow the same lines as them, and just kind of, this will give you a point to rest. And this is also, you know, if you reach a point in the course where there's no way that you're going to be able to get past the person, like if it's super tight single track and you're tired anyway, and you know this person ahead of you is slower, take that time to just relax, loosen up on the bike, take a rest, and it'll help you build energy up for those later points in the race as well. Now, you also might find yourself in a position where you've passed a bunch of people, or you've gotten passed by a bunch of people, and you find yourself at a point on the course where there's not any people for a couple turns ahead of you and there's nobody a couple turns behind you. So you're just kind of riding along on your own, and at this point you can kind of go your own speed. Or you could decide to sprint, but usually whenever I found myself in that position, I would just go my own speed. If someone caught up to me and they were going faster than me, I'd just let them by. If I ended up catching up to somebody else, then I can decide, okay, is it a slower rider? Do I want to rest behind them? Is it a faster rider? Do I want to latch onto them and have them pull me up ahead? It was kind of my choice depending on how tired I was, and I kind of just played it by ear the whole race. Now, additionally, there is another phase for pacing, which I'll just call the sprint pace, and that is basically just going all out 100%. And, you know, once again, just kind of play it by ear wherever you choose to do this, but just know this is gonna like really zap a lot of energy out of you if you're sprinting, and it's gonna make your form, you know, a little bit worse, and also you risk like crashing because you're riding over your head, that sort of thing. You really want to like pick that strategically where you use that, but I would say those are like my 4 phases of pacing that I kind of learned at my first Harescramble race, and that's kind of the strategy that I used throughout the whole race. Was kind of just, you know, either I was being pulled along by a faster rider that I latched onto, I was resting behind a slower rider, I was either just chilling at my own speed, or I was sprinting. I really didn't do the sprint that much because my only goal for this race was just to finish. So maybe in the future I'll be doing that a little more, but who knows. That's a little insight on pacing, and I think it really worked well for me. Like I said, I ended up finishing 6th in my class out of 45 on a disadvantaged bike as well. I was on the CRF 250F, a beginner trail bike, underpowered. It had a, not as good of a chassis with like suspension and all that. So I would consider that pretty well, and I was honestly really happy with my results, and I would certainly do it again. I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how laid back yet enjoyable this event was. So I'll definitely be racing Harescrambles again in the future. And I wish you luck on your first race. It's very exciting. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them and help you out. That's all for now. Soup out.